You may wonder, do you have to write all of this down? Do you have to go through all of this detail to be able to work the problem? The answer is, of course not. You write down as much as is comfortable for you, and all I'm doing here is illustrating how these three special rules, how these number system rules allow us to do the rearranging that we like to do. How would you write the problem yourself? You probably would write it more like what I showed you at the outset. Let's go back to that, where we have 8r plus 5t. We add subtract 3r. You would probably want to change that to add the opposite of 3r, then add 2t. You would probably want to rearrange things so that the r terms are together and the t terms are together. And then probably you would want to skip the next line, leave it out entirely. Let me see if I can cover it up a bit. Leave out that third line and come up directly with the answer. So you would say, add 8r and negative 3r, I would get 5r. Add 5t and 2t, I would get 7t. And so the steps you would take probably would be only these. Let's take another example and simplify it. Let's simplify another problem. 4x squared, subtract 3x, add 2, subtract x squared, subtract 5x, subtract 9. To simplify this problem, we begin by changing the subtract to add the opposite in each case. This gives us 4x squared, add negative 3x, add 2, add negative 1x squared, add negative 5x, add negative 9. Notice that we have several like terms. We must simplify by combining these like terms, and so let's group them together, ready to be combined. 4x squared and negative 1x squared have the same variable part, therefore they are like terms. We write them together in the first set of parentheses. Then we add. Be careful, don't leave out this add symbol. We add the next ones that are like terms. Negative 3x and negative 5x are like terms. So we add negative 3x and negative 5x in the next set of parentheses. And then, once again, we're careful to put add. Then we add in the next set of parentheses the constant terms, 2 and negative 9. 4x squared, add negative 1x squared is 3x squared. Negative 3x, add negative 5x is negative 8x. And 2 add negative 9 is negative 7. The answer can be left in this form. 3x squared, add negative 8x, add negative 7. This is perfectly correct. However, a mathematician would not leave it this way because there's more writing than necessary. Adding the negative 8x, adding the negative 7 can be written in a simpler form as simply subtract. And so the answer would be left as 3x squared, subtract 8x, subtract 7. Notice that to simplify this expression, we combine the like terms. We identify the like terms as terms that have the same variable parts. 4x squared and negative 1x squared are like terms, and so on. Grouping those together, we're then able to simplify. Now I'll give you some exercises. Copy the exercises down. Stop the tape, work the exercises, then restart the tape and check your answers. First exercise is A, subtract 10B, add C, subtract 8B, subtract 5C. Second exercise, 5x, subtract 2y, subtract 11x, subtract y. Third exercise, m squared, add 6n, subtract 7m squared, subtract 12. Your answers should be A, subtract 18B, subtract 4C. For number 2, minus 6x, subtract 3y. For number 3, minus 6m squared plus 6n minus 12. If you made a mistake and don't understand where you went wrong, be sure to mark the place on your paper so that you can ask a tutor or a lab instructor for help when you go to the lab. Now let's tackle the problem of multiplying by looking first at the multiplication rules. These are some more number system rules to go with the group that we've looked at so far. The multiplication rules that we'll start with are familiar. The commutative property. The commutative property of multiplication says that A times B is the same as B times A. Changing the order does not change the answer. A times B is the same as B times A. Second, the associative property for multiplication. The associative property changes grouping, changes where parentheses go. And so, in parentheses, A times B multiplied by C is the same as A times, in parentheses, B times C. The commutative property changes the order. The associative property changes the grouping. Let's look at these two properties at work in an example. Our example is, in one set of parentheses, 5a, and the next set, 3. We're multiplying 5a times 3. We begin by changing the order by switching the 3 and the 5a. Changing the order means we're using the commutative property. We'll abbreviate commutative property. Then what I'd like to do is multiply the 3 times the coefficient 5, and so I'll group those together. We're changing the grouping, which means we're using the associative property. And then 3 times 5 is 15, and so the answer is 15a. This means that 5a times 3 is 15a. Could you go directly from problem to answer? Very likely you could. All you have to do is realize that rearranging this is perfectly legitimate because of these two rules, the commutative property and the associative property. Therefore, you can think, without having to write all this down, think, I'm going to multiply the 3 times the 5 and get 15 for the coefficient with the a left unchanged. The commutative and associative are not the only number system rules that we need to look at. we have still more.